What has been your unexpected NSFW moment with a stranger? I was in a museum in France. In a room that was dimly lit in order to better show off the items on display. A man from behind me walked up next to me. Stood super close and then grabbed my BTT. I turned around to slap him. But when we locked eyes he had the most shocked, embarrassed and apologetic look on his face. He apologized profusely, I assume. I speak almost no French, and then ran into another room. I heard him whispering to a woman and then she busted out laughing. I can only assume that he mistook me for his girlfriend. And I like to think that some random French man occasionally cringes with embarrassment every time he thinks of our encounter. I was having a bathroom remodeled in my house. Sound did not travel in this place. I worked an irregular schedule, so when I would be home and awake could not be counted on, so I gave the plumbers access for when I wasn't there. One day I am sitting on my bed facing the mirror to put on my makeup. I hadn't gotten dressed yet, so anyway, the plumber's assistant must have knocked and, getting no answer, came in and started up the stairs to the bathroom. Halfway up I finally heard him and he got the full view of me. He just dropped his head and I quickly got up and closed the door to finish getting ready for work. I am certain the poor guy thought I set him up. The only thing that redeems me from that assumption was that the next day I got home while his boss was working, so I sat down in the living room and turned on the TV. He didn't realize I was there till he was halfway down the stairs and it nearly gave him a heart attack. Dude was whispering dirty things in my ears like, "I'm gonna F you so hard later." Feeling creeped out I turned back and his expression changed from surprised to embarrassed. Turned out he thought I was his wife. I'm not even a woman. Went to a bar on Thanksgiving. Saw a cute girl sitting by herself. Bought her a drink. But told the bartender to not tell her who it was from. Because she looked sad and like she wanted to be alone. He comes back a bit later when she was off talking on her phone and said she wanted to know who bought her the drink and if it was okay to tell her. I say okay. She asks if I want to go to a different bar and can I drive. I say sure. Then in the car she goes all PRN actress and FS the S out of me in the driver's seat in broad daylight in a parking space in front of the bar. It was uncomfortable. We get to the next bar and join the crowd to get beers. A guy walks up and she and him immediately start arguing. Turns out it's her brother. And he's there to convince her to come back to the dinner at their parents' house, where she just introduced them to her fiancé and then disappeared. When he turned to me and asked who the hell I was, I grabbed my phone out of my pocket, gave the "just a minute" finger, turned around, and got the F out of there like my hair was on fire. Was about 18 driving home with my dad from his workplace. Staring off from the passenger seat wondering what AS life he had having to work weekends, and I spot a McDonald's across the street. It had a huge glass window around a playground where at that moment two pretty 20-something females seemingly happened to lock eyes with me. Dad turns over to look at what I'm looking at, probably thinking, "This guy's hungry." At that moment the two women lift their tops to reveal two sets of the largest TTS I had ever seen in real life or photo at that point. Me and my dad just start laughing our heads off. I was driving on a freeway. I pass a car that didn't have a roof and she was topless. Two teenagers flashed at me when I was driving to a XGF house. Sister's friend asked me to hold her hand while she got her knee less pierced. Side note, almost got hand broken. I was delivering pizzas and got caught in a pretty heavy Florida thunderstorm. I was on my last delivery and was trying to meet someone at a specific time later, so rather than wait it out I charged out of my car to the person's door. After some frantic knocking, a woman opened the door and pulled me inside. I had gotten there earlier than expected and she had just gotten out of the shower and was only wearing a towel. 19-year-old me had seen way too many PRN movies start like that, so imagine my disappointment when she handed me a $20 pizza was $16 and opened the door back to hell. You got me with, I was delivering pizza. I met this girl on a bar crawl and we hit it off okay. Danced a little bit but sparks weren't flying by any means. She's on the crawl with a group of friends. We are all walking back to their hostel and when we get there she says she's going to bed. I was pretty disappointed until her friend looked at me and told me to come upstairs. We had sex in the hostel bathroom and at one point girl number 1 walked in. Using the logic from my extensive PRN viewing, I asked if she would like to join. If I've learned one thing from PRNOS, it was that she wouldn't be able to resist. Alas, she seemed to pretty easily turn down the offer. Probably my favorite is the story of BB Girl. I was in my early 20s at an alternative bar. I was the second person at the bar waiting for a drink. When this fairly attractive girl walks up immediately to my right, I look over. She smiles at me, so I think this is a good sign, but right then the bartender comes over to ask me my order. I order a triple whiskey or something heinous. And this girl piped up with, "Wow, that's amazing. Tell you what, if you down that in one you can play with my BBS. They're real and great." Now I haven't had much luck with women. So an attractive one coming right up to me and shoving her TTS at me is completely foreign and shocking to me. But I wasn't going to pass this opportunity up. Alright, and I down my triple. Great. Go ahead, as she pushes her chest out towards me. So I reach out and grab her BBS. And true to what she said, they were great. No, she responds and takes my hands and puts them all the way under her shirt. I'm all about this, playing like it's radio tuning and volume knobs. When suddenly she rips my hands out of her shirt and says, "By the way, I have a boyfriend and he's here tonight." Oh great. What the F just happened? Am I going to get my kicked? Luckily I didn't receive a kicking. And no drama occurred. Later in the night, after several more drinks, I ran into her outside where she told me she likes having strangers pay her. Really turns her on. And her boyfriend is okay with it because she FS like crazy when she's home. Alright. Cool. Free TIEs is free TIEs. Plus I'm pretty sure she ended up sucking on my left Neela. WTF. I got a random WhatsApp message with a kiss emoji and then of a pretty good looking girl lying down, showing her BBS. She quickly replied that it was a wrong number and asked me to delete it. I didn't know this girl. Neither do I think she was anywhere near where I live. I thought it was just some sort of joke or troll. I have experienced weird random WhatsApp messages before where I luckily dodged the bullet of bullies trying to gain your end day, posing as a flirty GIL with a random number and then share your photo with everyone. I didn't delete the chat but ignored it, thinking someone was pulling a prank. About 1 year later, I was cleaning up my WhatsApp chats and I see she had a new profile picture of her but with a guy that I didn't know either. It actually started to seem like the photo was legit. I just did the right thing and deleted everything. Sure you did. Of course he did. I checked it twice. Taking a dump at work. Just minding my own business. Janitor comes in and starts cleaning the bathroom. No problem. Then he jiggles the door. No big. He'll figure someone is in there and leave it for later. Nope. My panic sets in as he jimmies the door open and I finally make a noise and he locks eyes with me for a split second before closing the door and saying, "Sometimes they lock themselves." Sorry. WTF. Man. I was about 18 standing in a queue for an intertown bus. The queue was quite long and we stood for some maybe 45 minutes moving slowly. At some point, this big breasted older 30 to 35 woman stood behind me and had her breasts pressed tightly onto my back. Like the queue was tight but she was really unnecessarily pressed on my back and sort of moving slightly. I knew obviously that this wasn't very normal nor necessary, but it's only years later when I realized that she was intentionally rubbing her breasts on my back for a very long time and it was probably sexual. I was drunk and hooked up with a girl I had just met 45 minutes earlier, ended up in the back of her car with a bunch of people watching me through the window. I hate to admit it, but I couldn't remember her name until she told me the next morning. I was body surfing at a public beach in 2004. And I caught such a fast and perfect wave that I sped out of the water faster than I ever have. But when I stood up I realized my BB popped out of my swimsuit top. I fixed my top and ducked into the water and looked around to check if anyone had seen. But nobody saw. Or so I thought. I decided it was a good time to leave immediately. On my walk back some dad-aged guy comments to me, "Don't worry. I won't tell anyone." I was mortified. And I think I shot him a death glare. Went skinny dipping in Sri Lanka with 2 girls I had just met a few hours earlier. It was pretty unsafe because it was dark and we were all drunk. An old lady, late 60s early 70s, grabbed Maya in line at a cafe and whispered, "I love a tight young man." Didn't know how to respond. So I just said FCK off CNT and left. Felt gross for the rest of the day. Took a shower the second I got home for some reason. Had a woman about the same age shove a $20 bill down the front of my pants saying she was leaving a tip for a tip when I worked in a bar. Terribly awkward to say the least, and I know what you mean about just feeling gross afterwards. Had sex with a woman the second time meeting her. We went on a hike and ended up f-king in the burnt-out husk of a redwood tree. Does that count? I was at a punk show when I was 18 and I was pushing my way up to the front. This older chick, probably about 25, was in front of me and started pushing back against me. After a few moments, she kinda started grinding on me. Then she reached back, took my hands, and pulled them up to her BBS. She pulled her shirt and BA up and kept my hands on her TTS for the whole set. A few times, I tried to take them away, and she forcibly grabbed my hands and brought them right back to her TTS. I probably grinded with this girl with my hands on her tits for a good 40 minutes before the band, Dark Buster, started Cheap Wine and Cigarettes, and I had to pull myself away and run up on stage to sing along. She wrote her name and number on my arm at the end of the night. But I was so sweaty and covered in beer that it rubbed off immediately. I still remember her name. Though, Paige, if you see this, thanks for giving a ho NY teenager a great night. I had surgery on my right arm a while back. They gave me general, and after the surgery I was in the waiting area waiting to come around. When I did, I needed to pee real bad. I alerted the nurse and she brought a jug over. My left arm was all occupied with pipes and syringes going in, and my right arm had to be kept motionless. She took one look at me in my state and said if it's okay she can help. She reached under the blanket, lifted my gown and grabbed my C. Maybe she seemed attractive despite a face mask, or it was the painkillers. But I got an instant BNER. My pee cannon was now impossible for her maneuver under the blanket. Maybe out of disgust. I have no idea. But she promptly left without a word. After what seemed like forever, another nurse came over and asked if I could take care of things myself. I nodded. She held the jug and I tried to tackle the mini cannon to no avail. At this point I was dying of embarrassment. Finally, the previous nurse came back, held the jug while the second one aimed my cannon and fired it in the jug. I filled it up and waited in shame, knowing that they'd be telling stories about me for years. Met this hot girl at a dance club in my early 20s. Go back to my car. Commence SX. 5 minutes in, her girl squad comes and finds us being in the car. About 6 of them or so. Pretty attractive friends too, and they start rooting, cheering me on. The girl I am being keeps saying, "My friends are hot, eh?" while she rides me hard. Her friends teased me by hugging each other and kissing their necks outside of the car and fondling each other while I am trying hard to not see them so I can enjoy the show. I was hoping they would join, but they only teased till I came. I lost it and couldn't last any longer when they started flashing their TTS. I figured this would probably be the only time I could see them while looking at like 8 pairs of BBS lol. Shortly after they all left. Been chasing that high for the last 12 years. That's pretty FCKN high, my friend. It would put Mount Everest to shame.